Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Welcome to the Village of Portchester, and we're here for the ribbon cutting and dedication of this wonderful affordable project for senior citizens here in Portchester. That is an example of what happens when you have 1,000 different fathers and mothers working together to create something of value. We are in what was once a parking lot for the strip mall that you see off to the left of the screen, which houses a terrific restaurant, currently called Sergio's. It's been called a lot of things over the years, known by those of us who've been in the general area for the longest as Sawpits, and therefore attaches the name to this facility. This is an example of how you can start to solve the problem that people have, but it takes a certain talent and it takes a certain drive. Larizza, who is the principal of Lazz Development, who created this from his vision, and all of the other people that have helped make this possible, including the necessary partnerships from the state and the county and the local level. And all of those partnerships had to mesh together in order for this affordable building to be opened. We're going to introduce to you in general, they'll each get a chance to speak, Ayanna, who's the Downstate Development Director for Housing and Community Renewal, the State Department, New York State Department. Norma Drummond, who is the Westchester County Commissioner of Planning. Nancy Barr, who's the Westchester County legislator that represents Portchester, Rybrook, and a section of Harrison. The mayor of the Village of Portchester, Marino, and again, the developer who put this all together, Larizza, and they will introduce the individuals that are also here on their behalf, who we want to recognize. I also want to recognize that we have representatives from the office of State Senator Shelley Mayer with us here today. We have Rena Annabelle, who is here on behalf of Assemblyman Steve Otis, and we have Joan Grangeois Thomas, who has two hats on her head, even though she doesn't have any hats on her head right now in the hot sun. She is both an elected village trustee here in Portchester, and she is also chief staff of our Congressman, Mondaire Jones, and we're very happy to have them here representing their governments as all partners of this. This project, and we'll have each of the different people describe it, begins with the vision of a parking lot, which I passed by 10,000 times in my life, and never once envisioned that it had enough size and space and could be the home for 34, 35, 36 families. It took Larizza, the developer, to have that vision. And once you have that vision, you then need to get partners all throughout government and in the private sector. And probably the most critical partner in all of this is the state of New York. And we've recognized the representatives who have their representatives present here, but Ayanna, who is with us here, represents the Department of Housing and Community Renewal. That is the essential partner that all of us need for any affordable housing here in Westchester County and anywhere across the state. So we're going to start with Ayanna. Please share some of your thoughts about the great state role, and we deeply appreciate the role that the state has played to make this project possible.
Thank you. Thank you. It is great to be with you all today. On behalf of Governor Cuomo and HCR Commissioner Ruth Ann Visnakas, it's an honor to celebrate the completion of Sawpit Senior Apartments. Thank you to County Executive Latimer for welcoming us here today and for your ongoing and energetic support of affordable housing in Westchester. You and your team have been invaluable partners in our shared efforts to expand affordable housing across the county. I'd like to also congratulate our developers for successfully completing this beautiful new development. Last but not least, I'd also like to recognize the efforts of my colleagues at HCR, especially project manager and underwriter Ira Jones-Simony, architecture and design Wing Koo, environmental services by Carlos Barbosa, and our legal representative Robert Brenton. Sawpit Senior Apartments offers 34 modern and affordable homes for older adults right here in the center of Portchester. The rising cost of living in the village and throughout Westchester has exposed a real need to produce more affordable multifamily rental housing, especially for seniors living on a fixed income. Far too often, older New Yorkers are priced out of their communities, are forced to live in substandard housing. Thanks to Sawpit Senior Apartments, these 34 households will benefit from all the great new modern amenities that this building offers. And the development is conveniently located near public transit, services, places of worship, shopping, great restaurants, and entertainment options. This new development meets our goals of creating quality, affordable housing in growing communities like Portchester. Thanks to the tireless work of our partners from fellow state agencies and the commitment from Governor Cuomo to housing that they can afford. Sawpit Senior Apartments will do exactly that. This is how we build diverse, welcoming communities where people want to live. Thank you again to everyone here today, and congratulations. Stay safe and be well.
Thank you very much, Ayanna, and please convey to the Commissioner and to the Governor and the rest of the Executive Chamber how much we deeply appreciate having the support of New York State and making this happen as a critical player. From the Westchester County government side, we are one of a number of players that are helpful in making this happen. And we rely, those of us in the general government leadership, myself as county executive and others, we rely on professionals who are schooled in housing experience to help us. One of them is in the audience, Blanca Lopez, who is a resident of Portchester, and she has been active prior to her service in government in the area of housing and services to people from this community. And we're very happy now that as Assistant Director of Operations, number 3 position in operations, she's been a critical part of our team working very closely on these housing issues. And it is our planning department, because in Westchester County we do not have our own housing agency, but it's our planning department that does the work necessary to interface with the developer, with the state, and with the other players in the game. And for many years, we've been fortunate to have inside the department Norma Drummond, who's held a number of different positions. When I came on board, she was Deputy Commissioner, serving as Acting Commissioner. I'm very happy that we asked her to take on the official responsibility of being Commissioner of Planning, which she's done for the last 3.5 years.
I was like, but where? Okay. Especially, we know Carver Center, the community center is right behind the building, and with a new fence that Lou put up. But he took that vision and he created a wonderful, wonderful development here. It really is a great to see how the county working together with New York State for financing, but also working with the Village of Portchester with their land use approvals, actually saw the vision that he had on paper and made it a reality here. So it's been a great partnership with everybody working this. I do have to say, in the housing settlement, the 750 units, actually Lou was the developer that completed the most developments. He didn't finish the most units, but he actually did the most developments. And every time he came to me, you just kind of shake your head and said, another one? But I thought you told your wife you were done. So it's always great when he comes in with another idea, and we know he's starting construction now right down the road in Rye Brook. So we're going to look forward to those 4 units coming online shortly. But it's always great to work with developers who understand not just the financing of affordable housing and the land use approvals, but understand how important it is to each and every person that's going to move in the door and call these units home. So thank you, everyone.
With our executive branch efforts from the planning department, I mentioned Blanca and others already, we still have an important partnership, and that is the partnership with our legislative branch, the Westchester County Board of Legislators. As our colleagues who are representing state legislators can attest to, and I served both as the state assemblyman and the state senator for this area at previous times in my career, you fight for state resources to try to get attention to come into your district. And many times people look at Westchester and they see what they think is a monolithically wealthy county. And why does Westchester need this help? You know, there are other areas of the state, both rural and urban, that seem to need it more. But you try to form a good relation as a legislator in your role as an advocate. And that's the role that was played by both State Senator Mayer and Assemblyman Otis. And here in the county legislature, Nancy Barr has performed that role. She is by professional lawyer. She has served as head of the school board in her community, and now she's serving in the county legislature, completing her 2nd term and en route without competition for a 3rd term. And she has done an excellent job of bringing Portchester's needs before the legislature, even as every act that we take in the executive branch must have commensurate legislative support. So, therefore, legislator Nancy Barr.
Thank you, George, and thank you to all of the partners who made this a reality. I'm just going to talk about something a little bit different. We're very focused in the legislature on the issue of affordable housing, and as you know, the county executive did commission a study on affordable housing or on housing in general in in Westchester County, and we are far short of what we need. So it's really exciting to have this beautiful unit to show off as a great example of what affordable housing can look like. For whatever reason, we all love to say something's affordable when we go to the store. Oh, look, I got this great sale. I did this, I did that. You know, affordable is usually considered a good word, and yet somehow when we talk about it in the context of housing, it has a different meaning. Somehow people think, well, it's not as good because it has the word affordable in front of it. But as you can see from the outside, and if you get a chance to look inside, in no way is this a place that is any less than any other place that you might look at. I personally would love to look here, and live here. I'm getting, on in age, so maybe one day I will. But I think we have to stop looking at that as being anything other than really great for Westchester. And I really, again, appreciate everybody who's put their sweat and tears into this. Thank you.
The role that the village government plays is essential as well in these approvals. And as was pointed out, there is a planning process that has to be undertaken, and the local village officials have to be supportive of what that would be. And we had the great support of members of the village board and the village staff here in the village of Portchester. I mentioned before we have Joan Grenoir Thomas, who's with us here. I want to introduce you to the mayor of the village, Louis Marino. Louis was a member of the village board for the last 10 plus years, and while these approvals were going through, now he's become mayor. We want to tip our hat to prior mayor Fritz Falanka for his role in this, and other members of the board that were supportive that got us to this date. But it still takes a mayor at the top of the pyramid to make it happen. So therefore, Mayor Louis Marino. Louis?
Thank you, Brother George. John, come up here, please. Good afternoon, everyone. This is wonderful. It's amazing. Any projects like that, I'm more than happy to keep doing in Portchester building. And also, I'm going to recognize Louis. You're amazing. I remember when you talked to me about the project, I was on the board. Excellent. Look, less than a year. It's amazing. Wonderful job. Thank you, everyone. I mean, this is what I said, dream comes true. The best, portable housing. You can see, just pull up a van, bringing the seniors back, the residents. Is wonderful. It's no parking issue. It's nothing. It's wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this whole project. Thank you again. John, you're going to say a couple of words.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, County Executive, and to all the partners who had a hand in building this beautiful, beautiful structure. And Nancy Barr really just hit the nail on the head. Affordable is not a four-letter word. We need to make sure that we continue to build as many affordable housing units as we can, and make sure that it's available to our seniors as well as to our essential workers, and to teachers, and to those that are just starting out in their careers, whether they are firefighters or any other level government worker. So thank you to all the partners. Larizza, you do phenomenal work, and Norma, it's always wonderful to work with you. Thank you all very much for bringing this to Portchester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Trustee Joan. The vision behind all of this begins with a developer, and a developer who has experience in developing affordable housing is not easy to find. There are many people out there who do very good development work. They can build buildings, 30, 40, 50 stories high in a market that has a sure guarantee of return on investment. You're seeing a lot of that kind of development going up around train stations across Westchester County, with proximity to New York City being the important situation. But as I alluded to in my opening comments, I've driven by this location 100 times, and I knew this is a parking lot. If I was going to that restaurant, there was doctor's offices in there and so forth. I never once had the vision, the literal vision, to see what could fit in this parking lot, and certainly not 34 units of housing. But I should know by now, because Lou Larizza, under Lazz Development, and Michael Martino, I assume he's going to introduce Michael as part of this process, he was able to see a spot of unused Thruway Authority land alongside, actually, 287 in Portchester, just beyond Portchester and Rye Brook, and out of that did a series of homes, townhouses on Grant Street. he was able to see at the foot of Fox Island Lane here in Portchester the capacity to put in townhouses, or on Cottage Street, up on Old Post Road in North Castle. I was in the state senate at the time when Lou did that project, and over in the city of Rye, also proximate to the New England Thruway, seeing a 2.1 acre piece of land that could be 41 units of affordable senior housing, the Vienna project. I remember in that case, I was in the state legislature, and I had to have an urgent call to the governor's secretary to try to move something through the Department of State so that it had to happen. It had to happen fast before the financing ran out. All of those little headaches go through what every developer has to put together. They have to worry about the financing, to be sure, but they have to worry about the land use issues. Somebody's got to design the project. They've got to make sure they follow all of the codes. They've got to have the right energy production on the site. There's 100 different issues with labor. There's 110 different issues with any number of different other interests. The neighbors have an opinion, and there's 1,000 things that go into this. It's enough to make the average person say, I'm not going to do this. It's not worth my time and energy and effort. But Lou Larizza, the individual, Lazz Development, the organization, has been able to do this time and time and time again, as Norma mentioned, more separate projects. And trust me, a project of 10 units takes probably the same amount of energy it takes to put 50 units in. You still have to secure the financing. You still have to deal with the zoning or the planning issues. And all of those things Lou has done brilliantly. He is a very modest man, and I really do appreciate humility and modesty in a person. I've met many, many great people, and some of whom would remind you that they're great at every moment, but some of whom carry themselves very lightly. They know what they can do, and they just do it. They view it as part of their job. And when I step back and see the work that Lou has done, and I realize I couldn't have done it, and probably most of the rest of us couldn't either, but we benefited because he had that vision, but that quiet persistence. And he's never said, have a parade in my honor, go out there and throw bouquets at me. He's always on to the next project. He's thinking about how he can do that next project. So we owe him a debt of gratitude, both for this facility, the other things he's been involved in, and a man I'm proud to call my friend, Lou Larizza, head of Lazz Development.
Hello, everyone. I don't think I have to speak much. Maybe like I'm Michael Jordan. But I want to thank the state, the county, Westchester County, the planning department, Norma Drummond, Mr. Latimer, and Portchester for making this project possible. I've dedicated my entire construction career, 38 years, to affordable housing. And I always say everything in life with me just is dedicated on the D's: dedication, determination, and discipline. And the fourth D, if you play football, defense. Because defense wins championships. But every municipality I've been through, and I've been 18 different municipalities in Westchester. Some take longer than others, but we continue to push forward to create affordable housing. And it couldn't happen without my partner, Mike Martino, because he's in the background, my wife, Nella, and Cindy in the office, because I'm the man in the front that gets all the credit, but they're the one behind it that does all the work. I want to thank you very much, and I want to introduce Mike, because without Mike, none of this would have happened. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think everything's been said. Lou's vision, transforming this parking lot into a place where I would stay, and maybe in a few years, or my parents, our parents. It's something we can be proud of. When Lou and I finished our Vienna development in the city of Rye, which George helped with, naturally, and Norma, and the state, we said, that's our proudest moment. Then we look at this and we said, maybe we spoke too much, too quickly, because this also is a proud moment. But I want to just say one quick thing. And really, everybody helped out, the village, Senator Mayor, Steve Otis, our assemblyman, everybody really made this success possible. But George, who I knew, we served on a committee together many, many years ago. And then George helped us in our 30, 40 years of affordable housing while he was a county legislator, while he was a senator, and while he's the county executive. So, George, you're the biggest supporter we have of affordable housing, and our friends. Thank you, and congratulations to all.
And I want to highlight that Mike Martino, in addition to his professional work, served on the Tuckahoe Village Board, served a term as mayor of the village of Tuckahoe. We remember those days, and that helps Mike and Lou have a sense of how you maneuver through the governmental issues, and you have to be able to figure out how to do that if you want to be successful. I'd also like to recognize Richard Hyman. I don't know if he's still with us. He was here earlier. He, too, is a Portchester resident. He is chair of our county planning board. We have Anthony Zano, who's here, who is a critical person in our planning department. Every time we're doing some project and somebody has to lay out what the thing is going to look like or how we're going to interact with it, Anthony Zano's right there with the group. So, Anthony, thank you for your hard work and professionalism. And I just want to, as we get ready for the ribbon cutting, I just want to point out a couple of other things. It was mentioned when Nancy Barr said that, affordable is not a dirty word. Whatever the perception may be, this project and the other ones that are coming down the pike represent a contradiction to that popular narrative. Look at the design features of this facility and how it looks. And keep in mind that that facility there is a market rate, and a rather high market rate, multifamily building. And if you go right down Westchester Avenue on both sides of the streets, in this area, a good 2 blocks down, you'll see other multifamily buildings. Now, the design's always a bit different. The color scheme's a little bit different. But this building fits in perfectly to what that design looks like. And if you look at the townhouses down at Fox Island Road, you'll see the same thing. And that's an important part of this. We want to treat every person, whatever their economic basis is, as a fellow neighbor. We're not creating the lowest possible housing so you can just warehouse you in there. We want you to be proud to come home to this building and buildings like that. We want you to feel that sense of pride when your kids and your grandkids come over. I'm in grandparent land now, so I got to get that in. When your grandkids come over, that they say, Grandma, Grandpa, you live in a nice place. I want to go to see Grandma and Grandpa. And they have a little area outside. They have an area inside where people can congregate. It's not just utilitarian housing. This is what we learned over the years of housing, and Norma can attest to this. Once upon a time after World War II, housing, public housing, was done in an institutional setting. As many units as you could put together, Pruitt-Igoe, in St. Louis, Cabrini Green in Chicago, and a host of other places like that, including some in our county. Now we understand, have understood for a while, that each of these projects, the sizing of them is important, the aesthetics of them are important, the amenities of them are important, and Lou and Mike understand that. We have over at Vienna a beautiful rooftop gathering room so the people who live at that location can have certain kinds of communal activities. Once COVID is fully gone, we'll enjoy those spaces a lot more. But that is also part of the wisdom of this. So as you understand what we've accomplished today, yes, it's 34 units. It's 34 units, and we have other projects in the county that have happened over the last few years. The money that we have spent, $10 million in the last 2 years for infrastructure improvements, when, not necessarily in this case, when you need a connection to a sewer pipe, when you need a traffic light to handle the entrance or exit of a different place. The developer, having to absorb that, can't make the units affordable. The county steps in to help that out. And none of this would be possible without the state of New York's help. But when you hear people talk about affordable housing, when you hear them talk about the role of government, it's easy to condense it into a soundbite. This is the hard work that leads to results. And the results today for these 34 families are positive, and whatever other families follow them into any of these units, this is the vision of Lou Larizza, this is the coordination between lots of levels of government and people, and this is an example of what happens when we work together. So with that, let's cut the ribbon together. 3, 2, 1. Go. Congratulations. We're officially dedicated.